Last winter my friends and I were going to a country house to celebrate my birthday, but the trip turned into a real hell. It's been a year since that happened, and I still feel guilty. It all started on Friday evening, December 15. We gathered near my house to load everything necessary for a vacation into cars. I don't know why, but I had a bad feeling all day before. I drove it away from me with all my might. There was no reason to worry. We loaded the trunks with food and drove off. I've always had a dream to celebrate a holiday in a cozy house. Only the forest and no one except my friends around, and I was happy to find Annette for renting out a lovely house. The price seemed suspiciously low, but the desire to save a little turned out to be stronger. I called the number in the ad, but no one answered. I left a voice message telling when I wanted to come. A couple minutes later a message came. The house is free. Leave the money on the kitchen table, the keys under the rug. While we were driving, it was already dark, and for the last half an hour the navigator led us through a narrow road in the forest. The house turned out to be a large cottage, surrounded by forest from all sides. In such a wilderness, no one will come to help, I thought then, but I couldn't even imagine how true it really was. At first nothing strange happened. When the preparations were almost finished, the lights went out in the house. With the help of flashlights on the phones, we found an electric shield. Switching the switches didn't help. I called the owner of the house, but no one answered the phone again. And then it seemed to me that I heard the phone ring somewhere very close. To make sure, I dialed the number again. The sound came from a locked room on the second floor. Apparently, the owner forgot it when he came to check the house after past guests. It should have alerted me, but I found a logical explanation for everything. Having gathered by the fireplace, we began to decide what to do next. There is no light. We can't get through to the owner. It's scary to stay in the house. We decided to go home and come back in the morning. I went to start the engine of the car, turned the key, and nothing happened. Didn't work. The same with the second car. Apparently the batteries ran out from the cold. Sitting by the fireplace, I heard a scream. It was Carol. "Stop it, let me go," came from the second floor. It all became very creepy. Sam volunteered to check what happened, but we decided to go all together. Only Kate stayed downstairs to keep an eye on the fireplace. Carol's screams came from the locked room where the phone had been ringing earlier. As soon as we got to the door, the screams stopped as suddenly as they started. Sam had to break down the closed door. Behind it was Carol, lying on the floor. There were rope marks on her neck, and her eyes were wide open. There was no one else in the room. How did she end up here in the first place? And what happened? It became unbearably creepy, but the silence was interrupted by another scream. Only this time it came from below. It came from the fireplace. We ran there. Kate was screaming all the time and fell silent a second before we saw her. Her body was lying on the floor in an unnatural position. Something was leaning over her, with a rope in his hands. I've never seen anything like this. From a distance, it seemed to me that it was a man, but he had 2 rows of razor-sharp teeth and grey nasty skin with scars. He stood and looked straight at me, as if he didn't notice the others, but a moment later he disappeared into the darkness of the room. We lost 2 friends in 10 minutes. Sam called the police, explained what had happened. They were going to come, but after he told them the address, they refused. They said they wouldn't come here. They didn't pick up the phone anymore. The 4 of us stayed in this creepy house. As I thought in the evening when we arrived, no one will help us. In horror movies, people disappear when they separate. We decided to stick together, hoping that he wouldn't attack everyone at once. About an hour passed and Carol's scream came from above again. This can't be happening, I thought. I personally checked her pulse. It was already gone. But Carol kept screaming, "Save me," he won't stop. This time no one was left below. Just like last time, Carol stopped screaming as soon as we got to the door. Sam decided to go first. He slowly opened the door and froze in horror. As I got closer, I saw a terrible picture. The walls were randomly covered with something red with dripping streaks. There were only 2 words written dozens of times. Help me. Looking down, I saw Carol's red finger. At that moment, it seemed that if we stayed in the house until morning, we would be in the place of Carol and Kate. Winter, night, a broken car, nothing could stop us. We rushed downstairs, hastily threw on our jackets, ran out into the street and ran down the road. About 40 minutes later, when we got to the normal road, we caught a car and asked to take us to the nearest hotel, but it didn't end up there. In the morning, we rented a car and drove back. We couldn't leave our friends there. There were hastily scattered items on the ground floor, but no sign of Kate. The second floor was also empty. There weren't even any inscriptions. Everything that happened at night seemed to have evaporated. A few days later, Kate and Carol were found in the woods. There were abrasions on their fingers.